This presentation shares a reflection on an AHRC funded project entitled Taking Yourself Seriously. The presentation reflects on the use of arts-based practice to build social cohesion through the lens of 5 artists involved in the Taking Yourself Seriously project. Social cohesion can be linked to notions of belonging and identity, as well as to broader notions of health and well-being. This presentation discusses the use of arts-based methodologies to building social cohesion, and in so doing seeks to give deserved recognition to the contribution that migrant communities have made to social, cultural and economic life. This presentation links to the aims of the Migration and Wellbeing seminar series in that it reflects on work completed using co-produced artistic approaches to social cohesion in areas of Sheffield and Rotherham that have high migrant populations. Joseph Rowntree Foundation research in 2008 discussed migration and social cohesion in the context of other social and economic transformations that affect everyday life for people living in the UK. The Joseph Rowntree Foundation research discussed the fact that public debates often associate increasing ethnic diversity resulting from migration with the erosion of social cohesion. The research found that issues of deprivation, disadvantage and long-term marginalisation unrelated to immigration must also be considered, as well as how people relate to each other to ensure social cohesion. Here, the Taking Yourself Seriously project sought to address social cohesion in the diverse communities of Rotherham and Sheffield using co-produced artistic approaches that sought to value the well-being of both migrant and settled populations, using artistic approaches to locate places of commonalities and safe spaces for discussion and reflection. This paper draws on data and findings from the Taking Yourself Seriously project. The Taking Yourself Seriously project began in February 2017 and emerged from a broader Connected Communities programme that was launched in 2010. The aim of the Connected Communities programme was to fund research projects, partnerships and networks that would create a deeper and richer understanding of the communities in all their forms and in all the roles that they play and have played historically in our lives. Drawing on this, the Taking Yourself Seriously project aimed to rethink the ways that art is described in community settings, using co-production as a mode of collaborative art. The project involved artists working with community practitioners in 3 settings: a school, a community group and an adventure play area to co-produce art and enact social cohesion. Each setting, the school, community group and adventure playground, all enacted a variety of artistic approaches to building social cohesion. A partnership was developed with the school, working with Year 8 pupils. The project developed creative poetry and visual arts workshops to extend and deepen notions of success. The community project explored ways in which artistic methodologies supported community-led research with a focus on life trajectories of women from Pakistani heritage backgrounds. Poetry and other artistic methodologies were utilised to connect 3 generations of women's family histories, creating a sense of being between generations. The project used arts-based practice to give deserved recognition to the contribution that migrant communities have made to the social, cultural and economic life. The Adventure Playground Community Research project explored the idea of social cohesion as created in everyday playtimes. A pirate ship was created as a piece of play equipment, enabling the team to look at ways in which visual modes achieve impact in community groups and to reflect on how arts methodologies can be used with communities in more effective and ethical ways. This paper explores the aspirations of a co-produced arts-based approach to social cohesion. Research methodology greatly influences both the research process and its research outcomes. In co-produced research, participants are encouraged to construct their own knowledge and to consider the power dynamics with which knowledge is used by the dominant cultures. Co-production draws on a variety of approaches to collaborative work, such as action research and participatory research, that highlight the importance of collaborative knowledge creation. Arts-based approaches can refocus power and control into the hands of the community. Co-produced arts methodologies respect and engage the experiences of people, offering research participants more control over the research process and influence over how findings are used. Arts-based research can offer an alternative lens through which to consider social cohesion. Yet co-produced arts practices often reveal the interconnections between power and access to resources and can offer an opportunity not only to acquire new knowledge, but also to evaluate the knowledge that's been acquired through more formal research methods. The importance of reflexivity within co-produced artistic approaches to social cohesion can create a space where issues of contested voice, power and artistic identity can be explored. The research considered the experiences of 5 artists within the 3 project settings. The artists were 3 poets and 2 visual artists. The research involved 5 semi-structured interviews with artists and 1 participatory workshop. The value of artistic relationships, the power of the artist, and the power and trust in communities. In negotiating shared understandings of key terms and roles within the project, issues of power and trust are fundamental. Who those involved in the research process are affects the outcomes of the research. The artists in the projects were from a variety of backgrounds. 2 of the visual artists and 1 of the poets were from the communities in which their research was based, and other artists were new to the area. This influenced their power within the settings and the levels of trust that they can enact in their approach to their art. The research established that power and trust are key to successful artistic co-production in communities. Communities are multidimensional, and building working relationships between artists and community groups takes time. Recognising who personally and organisationally holds power within a co-produced project can allow for discussion of how this power is negotiated. Artists are situated and reflexively engaged in the community spaces in which they're working. The research recognised that the artists in some cases felt vulnerable working in community development settings, and likewise community development workers might have felt unsure of how the artist was intending to work. Clarity of work, roles and adjusting to the uncertain nature of co-producing artistic roles throughout the project was often uncomfortable for the artists. Some artists felt more power than others in terms of their ability to articulate and define their roles within the project. The role of art in developing social cohesion is to destabilise and to create opportunities for creativity. This doesn't necessarily mean that everybody in the project felt at equal power. Recognising these power differentials and allowing time for creativity to blossom offered an opportunity for discussion. In allowing time for creative space in co-production, artists' experiences of uncertainty can be explored. Vulnerabilities can be shared and discussed. Trust can be built. This trust can then be extended to the artist's relationships with the community. This development of creative space, where artistic understandings of social cohesion and co-production was foregrounded, allowing for artistic freedoms, was key to the project's arts-based approach to building social cohesion. Working with artists who had existing strong bonds of trust with communities added extra depth to the work. These artists knew their local area, and being local residents added an accountability to the process of building social cohesion. Trust was a key element to the facilitation of effective co-produced relationships. Co-production on the project worked best when the project worked within long-term established relationships where trust already existed. This trust enabled open conversations, supported listening, and created a safe space within the project, within which the artist felt valued and their artistic reflections were welcome. Creating collaborative spaces, doing art your own way. Using specific artistic methodologies such as poetry and portraiture to ask questions and to explore social cohesion offered an opportunity to develop safe spaces. These specific artistic methodologies allowed artists to offer an alternative way of thinking about social cohesion. These specific approaches recognise culturally shaped artistic approaches to creating a safe form of reflection about the area. For example, poetry in the school context built a common purpose with the young people. Building positive working relationships in order to enact this safe space was important to co-production in the project. Some relationships were already established and long-term, such as the Women's Community Project. Other projects were new relationships, such as the school. In all cases, co-production involved the development of listening relationships. For one artist working specifically in the community in which he lived, he reflected on a personal ethical commitment in his artistic journey. Taking a co-produced approach of fashioning the projects around the artistic process, rather than social cohesion could then emerge organically as a theme throughout the projects. The specificity of art forms linked to artefacts, linked to poetry, helped to develop safe spaces where conversations could move towards building a narrative of social cohesion. Using artefacts to discuss memories and to reminisce offered an alternative means of reflection for the women's group, which offered a means to facilitate conversation and to draw memories from everyday objects as inspiration for pieces of poetry. Through the use of artistic methods, social cohesion was organic. The use of artistic methods allowed an alternative perspective on the world, opening up conversations. Artistic approaches and the specificity of the art, such as the use of poetry, opened up informal spaces of inclusion where social cohesion began to be enacted. The research found that the culturally shaped power of specific art forms allowed social cohesion to emerge organically through the co-produced process of creating art. However, here a tension emerged. Was social cohesion created in the process of creating the art, or a product of the art? A process or a product, artistic roles. The project questioned the role of art in co-production. As the project completed, a further discussion emerged. Artists, academics and community practitioners began to consider, what does art do? The project recognised the history of socially engaged art in choosing to work in a co-produced way and to engage the project team. The artists, academics and social and community practitioners had a variety of artistic backgrounds, and some were familiar to the history of art and others much less so. The tension between art as a process and a community desire for a physical product as an act of reciprocity emerged. Choosing to use art as a framework for social cohesion means valuing and holding the art at the centre of the project. As the project continued, it became clear that working with artists offered a way of seeing what might not always be visible. The research reflected on how artistic methods help us see things in slow motion. During the project work, sometimes the variety of voices from academic to community development worker to artist sometimes can favour those who are more able to articulate their views rather than working to value, listen and collaborate and focus on the art. By focusing on the art, the cohesion can emerge organically from the artistic method, which is what's so valuable about using artistic methodologies for social cohesion, as these artistic reflections and interviews have revealed. Here tensions emerged though. If it was about the process of creating and the use of artistic techniques that was the co-produced building of social cohesion, or if in fact as an act of reciprocity, as a thank you to the time and effort shared by those who participated in the project, perhaps a product should have been created. In the case of the Adventure Playground, a project, the pirate ship, was created as part of the artistic process. In the case of other projects, a book of poems or a photographic record of activities completed was discussed as having been perhaps a missed opportunity to value the work completed. Key themes that emerged from the research centred on foregrounding artistic understandings and relationships, valuing artistic experience and the tension between socially engaged arts processes and a community desire for an artistic product. This presentation, therefore, in conclusion, has considered arts-based methodologies as an approach to building social cohesion. Using arts methodologies as an approach to building social cohesion is to ask questions and to create connections from an alternative angle. It's a process of listening to a community. Foregrounding artistic methodologies on a social cohesion project has developed a consideration of the power that artists hold within a project. The artistic control of the project can often be boundary control. This presentation has identified some of the tensions in the working approaches between community development workers and artistic contributions. Defining roles as an artist and establishing a strong artistic voice within the project were important themes that emerged from both the semi-structured interviews and the participatory reflection workshop. There were tensions between the artist's wish for artistic freedom, for freedom of expression, and the reality that boundaries existed within each of the three projects.
This paper has sought to discuss and highlight these themes and offer an honest consideration of the value and challenges of using artistic methodologies for social cohesion. This presentation has discussed this from the perspectives of the 5 artists interviewed about the project. The key learning from this research is that it's important to engage artists in a co-produced process to recognise the variety of power held within the project and to take steps to empower artistic voice. With thanks to the artists involved in the projects and to the wider project team.